You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Garrett Hartle. I am Garrett's father.
I'm Gina Hartle, and I'm Garrett's mom.
Family time. If you follow me on Facebook at all, you might have seen we made a little live feed asking you guys what kind of questions we should ask my parents on Talk 'em Up Tuesday, because the typical reptile questions probably don't even work. You know, the first question that I usually ask is, how did we actually meet? Alright, so the first question you guys actually asked, this is from Shelly Rees. She says, your parents look very healthy and youthful. Why do they look younger than you?
Thanks for the compliment.
Yeah, thanks, Shelly. What's your secret?
Cleaner living than Garrett does.
Cleaner living. Okay, so Emily Reed asks, Gary, can you do with snakes what you do with horses? What is it that you do with horses? Most of us don't know you.
Can I do that with snakes? No. But I have seen Garrett do it. I've seen him pick up snakes and just kind of charm them. I've seen him do that. I do a similar thing with horses. We communicate kind of by the vibe of the horse. We do that even before we ride or do anything with a horse. You should be able to communicate from the ground without a halt or lead line and have the horse fully understand you. But that seemed to carry over with Garrett and his reptiles, in that he can take almost any kind of animal and have it just become placid and quiet. And if any of that passed on to him from his growing up with horses, all power to him.
Okay, this one's from Linnell Forstall. Question for Gary. Do you wear your cowboy hat and boots in the bathtub? That's a good question. I often wondered this myself.
I wait till the utter last second before those come off.
How do you get the pants off before you take the boots off?
It's a trade secret.
Oh, okay. Alright, Linnell, here's your question for Gina. Gina, what is the geekiest or nerdiest movie that you would admit that you like?
I've taken her to a lot.
Well, which one does she like? That's the question.
Oh, I know.
Nerdiest movie.
You do? Oh yeah, I like Ant-Man.
Ant-Man, that's pretty bad. That's pretty nerdy.
Well, it had a father-daughter theme, and that touched my heart, so I really liked Ant-Man.
Alright, this one is for both of you guys. This is Ron Trones Jr. Trones Jr. Sorry, Ron. I don't know how to say your last name. Hello, well, welcome to the club. I mispronounce almost everyone's name on this channel. So, hello, Mr. and Mrs. Hartle. Now, he's obviously made you very proud as an adult. I don't know if that's obvious or not.
Yes.
But how was young Garrett to raise? He seems intelligent, determined, and strong-willed. Oh, shucks, Ron. But that must have made for some interesting times. You guys have any good stories about this one?
Go ahead.
Can we go?
Yeah.
Many times I've yelled at him for things that others praised him for. There were a couple of kids that got picked up by some guy in a car. Garrett followed him on his bicycle when he was a kid. Followed him until the guy actually stopped somewhere. Garrett told the kids to get out of the car and brought them all home. I yelled at him for getting involved in that, you know, because I didn't want him to get hurt and all that, until the mother came in, dropped her knees and hugged Garrett. Dropped her knee, that's how young he was, and hugged him for being so brave and all that, which completely nullified all my stuff. It was hard to stop Garrett from doing something when he seen something going south. If he was going to try to fix it or do something, he was going to do it. Especially since I'm always at work and I can't stop him anything.
I know how that feels, man. Alright, how about you, Mom? You got any good ones?
And another time, somebody broke into our car and stole his 6-speed bike that had a stick shift when we lived in Minnesota, and Garrett took it like a champ. He said, well, he must have needed that bike more than me. But we were pretty mad about it, but Garrett forgave him sooner than we did.
And I'm sure I got a new bike out of it, so. Yeah, sometimes you just gotta roll with the punches. So it was pretty easy to raise me then, in other words.
Oh no, it was not easy.
Well, why was it hard?
Well, it was hard because when I would walk past the couch, I'd get an iguana jumping on my back and I would scream because I didn't see it there.
You told me if I ever got a snake, you didn't care how expensive it was or how special it was, what would happen to it. If this is what my mom said, if this snake ever gets out and I see it somewhere in my house, do you remember?
I will kill it with a shovel.
So yeah, that started it all. She actually let me have an American alligator as a pet before she let me have like a tiny baby python. Do you remember that?
Yep.
Wow, it's hard to forget.
It's funny because you're asking us to do a story about Garrett or our favorite story, but really there's a million of them. I think the thing about it is it's interesting. He's always kept it interesting. He did listen to us and do things, you know, as altruistic as he could as a son, but also he had a really strong will, and if you have a son like that, he's probably very creative, and that's what we found with him.
Oh, here we go. Ed Villardo says, was it hard to adjust with Garrett moving to the East Coast? Because these guys are from California. Well, they live in California anyway. And Garrett, why would you move to the East Coast? My family's from New Jersey, and we moved to the West Coast to get away from that cold weather.
You answer that first.
I love it. I love Pittsburgh. This place has always seemed like home to me. I actually moved away from Pittsburgh when I was 5, I think. But no, I always loved Pittsburgh. Even this house specifically, a lot of you guys might not know this, but I now live in the house that his dad, my grandfather, built in 1950. So he grew up here. My kids are 4th generation in this house. All right, so you know how they say hindsight is 20/20. One of the questions that I get asked a lot from kids or like young people, or even maybe not young people, but hobbyists that are aspiring to go full-time with their reptile breeding and stuff like that. They ask me, how do I get to where I got, or what does it take to, you know, go full-time in the reptile industry? You know, do you have any advice or recommendations for them as far as chasing their dreams and becoming?
Well, you need to look at your gift and your passion. When Garrett was about 1.5 years old, we went down to a little stream that flowed down below our property, and he came up from the stream and he said, ow, look, Mom, ow. And he had a little tiny snake by the middle, and it kept coming around and biting him. Ow, Mom, look, ow. And he had a big happy smile. And I said, yes, honey, now let the little snake go. It has to go back to his mommy. And then he let it go.
I always tell that story for people who say they were afraid of snakes because they almost got bit by one as a child. I was like, I don't think that cuts it.
You started out like that,
Yeah.
One of my favorite things, going back to what she just said, you always brought a frog while she was sleeping. Gina used to lay out and get a suntan, and he'd suddenly open his hand with a frog or a snake or something gross, and she goes, why do you always bring me gross things? And he said, they're gross to you, but they're beautiful to me. And they still are, I guess.
All right, so follow your dreams and passions. Anything else?
Yes, follow your dreams. I was very single-minded, and that's how I got into animation. Even when I went to art school.
My dad is actually director, producer of the Wabbit, the Bugs Bunny show.
Garrett did go full-time into your job, which is very scary because now you're committing to your own talents and all that. You have to believe in yourself, and don't be afraid of how the growth of whatever it is you're doing will change your life. Go for it, whatever it is. If you fall down on your face, you're in no worse place than you were before you tried to do it. So actually get rid of the fear, because it's just hindering, and it has nothing positive.
And you gotta marry a brave woman like you did.
Yes.
Very brave woman.
Sorry, I already took her. You guys are out of luck on that one.
I took this other one. And really, that's a big part of it, because not only brave, but supportive, because she was always pushing me to go to the next higher level and go to the next thing. You can do more, you can do more, you know, and she'd see value. Don't cut yourself off so that you're almost giving everything away. Even though you're receiving money, it's like you spent more money on your snakes or your things, and then you priced everything so low that, you know, oh, I can't do this business because I'm broke.
I think that's actually good advice for the reptile industry too. I think a lot of times when people get that first clutch of snakes, they have a really hard time valuing it at what it's at. And what they needed to be able to do is show how much dedication and effort and even financial investment they have into that, so that their customers can understand why the value is what it is, rather than, I think what we do sometimes is look too much at what everyone else is doing, just compare ourselves to them endlessly, whether it's in our pricing or what we're doing, rather than chasing what it is that we think would be cool and bringing value to that project, whether it's in reptiles or like you were talking about your art.
Being a Hartle too, it's a strange thing. He's making fun of that in the beginning, but we dream and do. It's just every Hartle that you walk into. That my son with his reptile stuff, my daughter, she cuts hair, now she goes all over the world doing it, you know, and my other daughter, she's going into this exercise thing, and it's like you look into your own power, your own abilities, your own wants, and turn that over into something, and then you're not you're not up and down with, you know, the market or any other kind of a thing. You are your own resource. I guess that's the biggest thing that we can look at, is that to be your own resource, to have confidence in your own resource. We're stupid enough to believe in ourselves. I guess that's a Hartle trait, and
it's a good definition. Hartles are stupid enough to believe in themselves.
We're stupid enough to believe in ourselves.
I like it.
And when you see those gifts and talents in your children, you should develop them, encourage them to develop those talents, because you can tell that they have a passion for them, and they have the comprehension, and they learn, they read, they just absorb everything like a sponge when it really comes to something they love. So that's a good thing.
We needed at that kind of tender age a little kick in the butt in the right direction, and you'll be thankful if you have that support group. If you don't, then that's harder, because you have to be your own support group. But it's worth it to be your own support group.
I have one for you. As the person in the relationship who maybe doesn't like reptiles, which I think is an accurate way to say you hated snakes. You were afraid of them, you didn't like them. I think she must have had nightmares for the first 6 months after I got my first snake every day. She's telling me new nightmares regarding my snake. How she's having to shoot it with the bullets. Well, this was just the first snake.
Oh, okay.
The first one. Yeah, later it got pretty out of hand. But what would you say to those of us, or those people out there who might be watching this video, or their husband or wife or son or daughter shared this video so that they could see your response as to how do you deal with that? Because a moment ago you said you were proud of where I've come as far as working full-time with reptiles and chasing what I love, but what I love is what you hate. How do you do that? How do these guys do that?
Well, you have to be patient, you have to be forgiving, and you have to be understanding that everyone's not the same as you, and that's okay. But you also have to realize that there's something that person really derives life from in a way that you don't, and that's okay. For example, Garrett said to a lot of kids he would teach them about reptiles, and he would take large groups of children and he would take a huge snake into a church and it would be up near the pulpit, near the altar where the sermon would usually be preached from, and he would actually preach a sermon to the audience, but he was using a snake to do it. And so it was very effective, because the children were able to glean from that teaching some truths and values that they could apply to their life. And they also could apply it to their relatives and friends, and they were able to say, you know what, there's something there, so it's okay. And that's the way it was with Garrett. I could see he could really teach children and adults also about values and truths through the reptiles and through the passion that he had for his reptiles.
I was actually being sneaky about it. I don't know if you ever listened to any of those talks, but what I would do is bring reptiles, and then, like, you know, a lot of kids parties and stuff have reptiles, but then once I was there, I would talk to the parents who were always like kind of sitting in the back or whatever. So the message was always, I would talk about how we need to love the unlovable, you know what I mean, something that is different, unfamiliar, even scary to us in another human, you know, that we should learn to love those people that we see as unlovable. And then I would bring up a snake, and in the beginning I would ask, you know, which mom out there hates the snakes the most, and then I would call her up on stage to show us how open her heart was towards loving the unlovable for the sake of the children, so that they could learn.
This kind of goes back to following your dream, and I really do believe, as Gina just said very eloquently, that you're kind of implanted with something, a desire for that thing that you love. And I think that if you're a spouse, or if you are a mother or whatever it is, and you don't cultivate in them, even if you don't understand what it is, that dream. You've crushed something in somebody you say you love. You say, I love you, but I'm gonna crush something in you that I don't appreciate. And then...
Wait. I thought that was the whole point of marriage.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it should be building each other up as much as we can, not crushing the thing that, you know, if you love somebody, you love that thing. You don't realize it, but that's what you're saying. If I love you, I also love all the parts that make up you. To allow them that expression, as Gina says, brings them life. There's something that feeds the person out of that thing. We weren't meant to sit on an assembly line and just turn cranks on stuff. We just weren't. Each one of us, every one of you have some kind of desire that needs to be expressed. And either in a hobby or if you can, do it as a job, but express it because it will retain some life, and then everyone around you gains benefit from the fact that, you know, you've been enlivened somehow.
But is there anything that you guys want to say, just thank you for, or whatever, to people within the reptile industry and what they're doing? And
well, I want to appreciate you, actually. I realize that the community that do this are actually very giving people, very sharing people, you know, and you know, they kind of watch out for each other, and maybe it's because nobody else does. More power to your community.
How about you, Mom?
Thank you for being a subscriber and having that hunger and passion to have more knowledge, because I could see that passion in my son as he was growing up all through the years, how he really wanted to learn and he really wanted to put forth his best foot in something that he had a passion for. So thank you for that.
If you're not already a part of our YouTube family, go ahead and hit subscribe below. We'd love to have you guys on board as well.